Sophia called it a break for the soul. Why then did Elijah see her in the arms of another in the hotel? His silence hides a plan that will turn their lives upside down. Elijah adjusted the tickets on the kitchen counter, their edges crisp against the granite. He'd snagged front row seats to Sophia's favorite indie band, a surprise for their 5th anniversary. The Miami sunset bled through the blinds, casting slats of orange across the room. He'd planned a weekend escape to the Florida Keys, something to reignite the spark they'd both felt flicker lately. Sophia walked in, her phone buzzing in her hand, eyes glued to the screen. She glanced up, offered a quick smile, and slid her phone into her pocket. "Dinner's ready," Elijah said, gesturing to the takeout containers from their favorite Cuban spot. He'd spent the afternoon sketching designs for a new beachfront project, but tonight was for them. Sophia nodded, sitting across from him, her movements deliberate, like someone following a script. They ate in near silence, the clink of forks louder than their conversation. Elijah broke the quiet first. "I was thinking we could hit the Keys next weekend. Just us, a small getaway." Sophia set her fork down, her fingers lingering on the stem of her wine glass. "I've been thinking too," she said, her voice steady but distant. "What if we took a break? A week apart, to test our marriage?" Elijah froze, the word test landing like a stone in his chest. "Test it how?" he asked, leaning forward. She met his gaze, unflinching. "To see if we still miss each other, if we're still connected." He searched her face for a crack, a hint of doubt, but found none. "Where would you go?" he asked, keeping his tone even. She shrugged, swirling her wine. "Maybe a quiet spot by the coast. To read, walk, clear my head." Her answer was too smooth, too rehearsed. Elijah nodded, his jaw tight. "When?" he asked. "Tomorrow," she replied, sipping her wine for the first time. The speed of it hit him. She'd already decided. Morning came fast. Sophia packed a small duffel, her movements efficient. Elijah watched from the doorway as she tossed in a few sundresses and her charger. No laptop, no books. "You're traveling light," he said, trying to sound casual. She flashed that same practice smile. "Don't need much for a reset." She zipped the bag, left her wedding ring on the dresser, and walked out. The door clicked shut, and the house felt too big, the air too still. Elijah sat at the dining table, staring at the spot where her ring glinted in the morning light. His phone buzzed. A text from Ryan, a college buddy who ran a bar in South Beach. "Hey, saw Sophia last night at Oceanfront Grill. She wasn't alone. You good?" Elijah's thumb hovered over the screen. He didn't reply. Instead, he opened their shared banking app. 3 transactions from yesterday. $180 at Oceanfront Grill, $300 for a couple spa session, and $1,200 for a luxury suite at the Oceanfront Hotel. His stomach churned, not with anger, but with clarity. He grabbed his laptop and logged into their cloud sync tablet. Sophia's Instagram story loaded instantly, meant for her close friends list. Elijah wasn't on it, but the tablet didn't know that. The video showed her poolside, a mojito in hand, laughing as a man's arm reached into the frame, his fingers brushing hers. The timestamp, last night, 10:47 p.m. Elijah closed the tablet, his breathing steady but heavy. She wasn't hiking or journaling. She was rewriting their story without him. He dialed Clara, an old friend and divorce attorney known for her precision. "I need advice," he said when she picked up. "Sophia's gone for a week, but she's not alone." Clara didn't hesitate. "Document everything, charges, messages, proof. Freeze the joint accounts today. I'll start drafting." Elijah hung up, his mind racing but focused. He wasn't the type to yell or break things. He'd move smarter, not louder. By noon, he'd contacted the bank, locking the joint savings pending mediation. Then he called a private investigator, a contact Clara recommended. "I need confirmation," Elijah told the PI, giving Sophia's location and the hotel details. "Discreet, fast." The PI promised results by morning. Elijah leaned back in his chair, the tickets to the Keys still on the counter. He slid them into a drawer. That dream was dead. Sophia texted that evening, settled in. "Feeling good about this. Hope you are too." Elijah stared at the words, her casual tone slicing deeper than any argument could. He didn't respond. Instead, he walked to the dresser, picked up her ring, and dropped it into a small box. The weight of it felt final, like closing a book he'd stopped reading. Tomorrow, he'd start dismantling the life she thought she could pause. Elijah woke to the buzz of his phone at 6:17 a.m. A new email from the private investigator, labeled Preliminary Findings. He opened it, scanning the attached photos. Sophia is stepping out of a black SUV at the Oceanfront Hotel, a man's hand guiding her elbow. Another shot showed them at a rooftop bar, her head tilted back in laughter, his arm draped over her chair. The man's face was clear. Mark, a co-worker she'd mentioned in passing, always with a dismissive shrug. The timestamp matched Ryan's tip. Elijah forwarded the email to Clara with a single line. Keep moving forward. He poured coffee, but didn't drink it, his focus on the next steps. Clara called within the hour. The PI's evidence is solid, she said. We can use it to secure your assets and push for a clean split. I've drafted a separation agreement. Ready to review? Elijah agreed, scheduling a meeting for that afternoon. He hung up and opened his laptop, logging into their shared financial portal again. Another charge had posted, $450 for a private boat tour, booked under Sophia's name, 4-2. His jaw clenched, but he didn't linger on the sting. Instead, he printed the transaction records, stacking them neatly beside the PI's photos. By 10 a.m., Elijah was on the phone with a storage company, reserving a climate-controlled unit. He wasn't erasing Sophia from the house. He was organizing her exit. He moved through their condo, packing her belongings with precision. Books she'd bought but never read, her yoga mat, a framed print from their honeymoon. Each item went into labeled boxes, bedroom, miscellaneous, art stacked in a guest room. He didn't touch her jewelry or the ring she'd left behind. Those stayed in the box on the dresser, a line he wouldn't cross. Sophia's next text came at noon. This break is really opening my eyes. Miss you. The words felt hollow, a performance for an audience she assumed was still watching. Elijah didn't reply. Instead, he drove to the bank, meeting with a manager to finalize the freeze on their joint accounts. Pending legal mediation, he explained, signing the forms. The manager nodded, processing the request without question. Elijah left with a new personal account, his direct deposits rerouted. The shift felt like cutting an anchor loose. At Clara's office, the air was sharp with purpose. She slid the separation agreement across her desk, pages crisp and heavy with intent. This protects your assets and outlines a fair division, she said. We'll file once you're ready. Elijah skimmed the document, his eyes catching on the clause about infidelity. The PI's photos would ensure Sophia couldn't contest it. Add a clause for the storage unit, he said. Her things are already there. Clara raised an eyebrow, but nodded, typing the amendment. Back home, Elijah checked the tablet again. A new Instagram story loaded. Sophia on a yacht, wind in her hair, Mark's silhouette at the helm. The caption read, Finding Clarity. Elijah's chest tightened, not with pain, but with resolve. He screenshot the post, adding it to the growing file. Then he called a locksmith, scheduling a change for the next morning. The condo wasn't hers anymore, not in the way she'd left it. That evening, Ryan texted again, saw her at the hotel bar again. Same guy. You sure you're okay? Elijah typed back, I'm handling it. Thanks for the heads up. He didn't elaborate. Ryan didn't need the details, and Elijah didn't need the sympathy. He spent the night reviewing Clara's draft, signing where needed. The pen felt heavier than it should have, each stroke carving a boundary Sophia didn't know existed yet. Another text from her arrived at 11 p.m., thinking about us. This time apart is showing me what matters. Elijah read it, then set the phone face down. The lies didn't surprise him anymore. They only sharpened his focus. He walked to the balcony, the Miami skyline glittering below. The city hummed with life, indifferent to his unraveling marriage. For the first time in days, he felt steady, like a man who'd found solid ground after drifting. The next morning, the locksmith arrived at 8 a.m., swapping the condo's locks in under an hour. Elijah tested the new keys, their weight unfamiliar but reassuring. He drove to the storage unit, dropping off the boxes he'd packed. The attendant handed him a receipt and a key for Sophia to collect her things. Elijah mailed the key to her sister's address, a neutral drop-off to avoid confrontation. He wasn't hiding, he was drawing a line. By afternoon, the PI sent a final report, a video clip of Sophia and Mark checking into the hotel, her laughter echoing as she leaned into him. The evidence was undeniable, a story told in timestamps and receipts. Elijah forwarded it to Clara, who replied instantly, This seals it. We're ready when you are. He didn't hesitate. File tomorrow, he texted back. The decision wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. Sophia's final message of the day came as Elijah sat at the kitchen counter, the condo quiet around him. Can't wait to see you soon. We'll talk, okay? He didn't answer. The tickets to the keys were still in the drawer, untouched. He pulled them out, tore them in half, and tossed them in the trash. The concert wasn't his future anymore. Neither was she. Elijah's phone lit up at 7:43 a.m. with a text from Clara. Papers are ready. Filing today unless you say otherwise. He typed back, go ahead, and set the phone down. The decision felt like flipping a switch. Final, irreversible. He stood in the condo's kitchen, the new locks gleaming on the door, a quiet reminder of the line he'd drawn. Today was day 4 of Sophia's retreat, and her absence no longer felt like a void but a space he was reshaping. He drove to a local coffee shop to meet Emily, a former colleague who'd reached out after noticing his updated LinkedIn status. Single. She'd suggested catching up. No pressure, just a friendly chat. Emily arrived, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder, and slid into the booth across from him. You look different, she said, stirring her latte. Lighter, maybe. Elijah shrugged, not ready to unpack the week. Instead, they talked about her new project, a community center design. Her enthusiasm was contagious, pulling him into a conversation that didn't revolve around betrayal. Midway through, his phone buzzed again. A new Instagram story from Sophia, still synced to the tablet he hadn't disconnected. He opened it discreetly. Sophia and Mark on a beach, her hand on his arm, a sunset framing them. The caption read, Moments that matter. Elijah's pulse stayed even. He screenshot the post and emailed it to Clara, adding it to the evidence pile. Emily noticed his shift in focus. Everything okay? She asked. He nodded, just tying up loose ends. Back at the condo, Elijah reviewed Clara's email. The separation papers were filed, and a courier would deliver them to Sophia's hotel tomorrow. He'd also instructed Clara to include a note with the storage unit key's location at her sister's house. Every move was calculated, leaving no room for Sophia to twist the narrative. He wasn't playing her game, he was ending it. That afternoon, the PI sent a new update, a detailed log of Sophia and Mark's activities, including a dinner reservation for tonight at a rooftop restaurant in South Beach. Elijah didn't need more proof, but he forwarded the log to Clara anyway. She called immediately. This is overkill, she said. You've got enough to make it airtight. Elijah agreed, but added, I want her to know I saw everything. Clara paused, then said, Understood. I'll make sure the delivery is timed for maximum impact. Elijah spent the evening boxing the last of Sophia's belongings, photo albums, a ceramic mug she'd bought at craft fair, her spare charger. He labeled each box with a marker, his handwriting steady. The task wasn't emotional. It was logistical, like archiving a chapter he'd already read. When he finished, he drove to the storage unit, stacking the boxes neatly inside. The attendant locked the unit, handing him a receipt. Elijah tucked it into his wallet, a small piece of closure. Sophia's next text arrived at 9 p.m. This time apart is making me see things clearly. I want us to talk when I'm back. Elijah read it, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He typed, We'll talk, but didn't hit send. Instead, he deleted the message and blocked her number. The act wasn't spiteful, it was a boundary. She'd find out soon enough that words wouldn't undo her choices. He met Ryan for a drink at a dive bar near the beach, a spot they'd frequented in their 20s. Ryan didn't pry, but his question came anyway. You're really done, aren't you? Elijah nodded, sipping his beer. She made her move. I'm making mine. Ryan clapped his shoulder. You're tougher than I thought. Elijah didn't respond. Toughness wasn't the point, clarity was. The next morning, Clara confirmed the papers were en route to the oceanfront hotel, set to arrive during Sophia's dinner with Mark. Elijah pictured the moment, a courier interrupting their meal, handing her the envelope. He didn't need to be there to know it would hit hard. He spent the day working on a new architectural pitch, his focus sharper than it had been in months. The condo felt lighter, like it was finally his. A call from Sophia's sister, Mia, came at noon. I got the storage key, she said, her voice cautious. She doesn't know yet, does she? Elijah replied, She will tonight. Mia sighed. I'm sorry, Elijah. I didn't think she trailed off. Just make sure she gets the key, he said, ending the call. He didn't need apologies, hers or Sophia's. By evening, Elijah was at a networking event for local architects, a last-minute invite from Emily. She introduced him to a developer looking for sustainable designs, a project that could elevate his career. They exchanged cards, and Emily grinned. "You're back in the game," she said. Elijah didn't correct her. He wasn't back. He was moving forward. His phone stayed silent. No texts or calls from Sophia. He checked the tablet one last time. No news stories, no posts. The silence was telling. She'd either seen the papers or sensed a shift. Either way, the clock was ticking down on her illusion of control. Elijah left the event with Emily, walking along the Miami waterfront. The air was warm, the city alive. For the first time in days, he felt unburdened, like a man stepping into a life he'd almost forgotten he could claim. Elijah sat at the kitchen counter, his laptop open to a new project proposal. The condo was quiet, the new locks a silent barrier against the past. It was day 6 of Sophia's absence, and the courier had delivered the separation papers to her hotel last night. Clara had texted confirmation, delivered at 8:32 p.m., signed for by Sophia. Elijah hadn't heard from her since, and he didn't expect to, not yet. He focused on his work, sketching a blueprint for a client, each line deliberate, grounding him in the present. His phone buzzed at 10 a.m., a call from an unknown number. He let it ring, suspecting Sophia might be using a friend's phone. No voicemail followed. Instead, a text arrived minutes later from her sister, Mia. "She's on her way back. Got the papers. She's upset." Elijah didn't respond. Upset or not, Sophia's choices had built this moment. He closed his laptop and drove to meet Clara for a final review of the legal steps. Clara's office was a flurry of activity, but she waved him in. "She can't contest this," Clara said, tapping the file. "The evidence, photos, receipts, logs, is ironclad. She'll have to sign or face a drawn-out court process." Elijah nodded, scanning the asset division. The condo in his name, joint savings split evenly, no alimony. "What if she fights?" he asked. Clara smirked. "She'd lose, and she knows it." Elijah left with a copy of the agreement, his resolve unshaken. Back home, he checked the tablet one last time before disconnecting Sophia's account. A new story had posted, Sophia alone at a cafe, her coffee untouched, the caption reading, "Rethinking everything." No Mark, no yacht, no laughter. The shift felt calculated, like damage control. Elijah deleted the cloud sync, severing her digital footprint from his life. He didn't need to watch her performance anymore. At 3 p.m., the condo's intercom buzzed. Elijah checked the camera. Sophia stood at the entrance, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder. He let her in, not out of kindness but necessity. The confrontation was inevitable. She stepped inside, her steps hesitant, eyes scanning the bare shelves where her things once Saturday. "You changed the locks," she said, her voice low, almost accusatory. Elijah leaned against the counter. "I change a lot of things." She set her bag down, clutching the envelope Clara had sent. "This is really what you want?" she asked, holding it up. Elijah didn't flinch. "It's what you started." She opened her mouth, then closed it, her fingers tightening on the papers. "I needed space, Elijah, to figure things out. It wasn't about him." He tilted his head. "Mark, you mean? The guy on the yacht? At the spa?" Her eyes widened, caught off guard. "You spied on me," she said, her tone rising. Elijah slid his phone across the counter, open to the PI's photos. Her and Mark at the hotel, the rooftop bar, the boat. "I didn't need to spy. You left a trail." Sophia's hand trembled as she scrolled through the images. "It wasn't what you think," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Elijah crossed his arms. "Then what was it? A retreat? A test? You lied, Sophia, and you didn't even hide it well." She sank onto a stool, the papers crumpling in her grip. "I got scared," she said. "We were stuck, weren't we? I thought maybe this would wake us up." Elijah shook his head. "You didn't wake anything. You walked away." She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. "Your things are in storage," he said. "The keys at Mia's. A rideshare's waiting outside. You've got 10 minutes. Her jaw dropped. "You're kicking me out?" "I'm letting you go," he corrected. "You chose this when you checked into that hotel." Sophia's eyes darted to the bare walls, the empty space where their wedding photo once hung. "We can fix this," she said, her voice cracking. Elijah handed her a pen. Sign the papers, Sophia, or we do this in court. She stared at the pen, then at him, searching for a crack in his resolve. She found none. The rideshare honked outside. Sophia scrawled her signature on the agreement, her hand shaking. You'll regret this, she said, standing. Elijah opened the door. I regret waiting as long as I did. She grabbed her bag and walked out, the door clicking shut behind her. The condo felt still, not empty, but free. Elijah called Clara. She signed, he said. Clara's voice was crisp. Good. I'll file it today. You're almost done. He hung up, then texted Emily. Free for coffee tomorrow? Her reply came instantly. Name the place. He smiled, a small but real shift. The weight of Sophia's betrayal was gone, replaced by a future he could finally see. Elijah stood at the edge of a Miami community center, blueprints in hand, presenting his sustainable design to a group of developers. The room buzzed with interest, their questions sharp but encouraging. Emily sat in the front row, her notepad filled with sketches, her presence a quiet anchor. It had been 3 weeks since Sophia signed the separation papers, and the divorce was now finalized. Clara had called yesterday to confirm. No contest, no delays. Elijah's life was his own again. He wrapped up the presentation, shaking hands with the lead developer, who promised a follow-up meeting. Emily caught up with him outside, her smile bright. You nailed it, she said, handing him a coffee from a nearby cart. They walked along the waterfront, the ocean breeze carrying the hum of the city. Feels good to focus on something real, Elijah said, sipping the coffee. Emily nodded, not pushing for details about his past. Her ease made it simple to be himself. His phone buzzed, a notification from the storage company. Sophia had picked up her belongings that morning, no issues reported. Elijah felt no urge to check if she'd left anything behind. The condo was now fully his, rearranged with new furniture he'd chosen, pieces that didn't carry old memories. He'd donated the last of their shared items to a local shelter, closing that chapter without fanfare. At a beachside cafe, Elijah and Emily sat for lunch. She shared her latest project, a mural for a youth center, her eyes lighting up as she described the colors. Elijah listened, drawn to her passion, a stark contrast to the calculated charm he'd once mistaken for love. His phone stayed quiet. No texts, no calls from Sophia. Her silence was a relief, proof she'd accepted the end. That evening, Elijah attended a charity gala, invited by the developer he'd met earlier. Emily joined him, her presence effortless, not demanding but grounding. The venue overlooked the Miami skyline, lights reflecting off the water. As they mingled, Elijah spotted Sophia across the room, standing beside Mark. She held a champagne flute, her laughter loud but brittle, like she was performing for an audience that wasn't watching. Their eyes met briefly. She froze, then looked away. Elijah didn't approach. Instead, he introduced Emily to a city planner, their conversation flowing naturally. Sophia's gaze lingered. He felt it without looking, but he didn't turn. Later, as he and Emily stepped onto a balcony for air, Sophia approached, alone. Can we talk? She asked, her voice low, almost pleading. Elijah faced her, calm. There's nothing left to say. She shifted, clutching her glass. I messed up, Elijah. I see that now. Can't we at least discuss it? He shook his head. You made your choices. I made mine. Her shoulders slumped, the confidence she'd worn like armor gone. I thought we were stronger than this, she said. Elijah met her eyes. I thought so too, until you showed me we weren't. He turned back to Emily, who was waiting by the railing, unaware of the exchange. Sophia didn't follow. She rejoined Mark, her steps slower, her smile forced. Elijah felt no triumph, only certainty. He and Emily left the gala early, walking to a nearby pier. They sat on a bench, the waves crashing below. You seem at peace, Emily said, her tone curious but gentle. Elijah nodded. I am, for the first time in a long time. The next day, he signed a contract for the community center project, a 6-month commitment that could redefine his career. He celebrated with Emily over dinner at a small taco joint, their laughter filling the space. She didn't ask about Sophia, and he didn't bring her up. The past was a closed door, one he no longer needed to open. A week later, Elijah found an email from Sophia in his inbox, marked urgent. He opened it, expecting a plea. but it was a forwarded legal notice. She'd moved out of state, leaving no forwarding address. The storage unit was now her responsibility, the lease transferred to her name. Elijah archived the email without replying. It was her final attempt to pull him back, and it failed. He spent the weekend volunteering at the youth center with Emily, painting walls for her mural. The kids swarmed them, asking questions, stealing paintbrushes. Elijah laughed, his hands streaked with blue, his heart unburdened. Sophia's betrayal had been a storm, but he'd rebuilt in its wake. As he watched Emily guide a kid's brushstroke, he knew this was where he was meant to be, free, present, and moving towards something honest.